Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one.
The introduction. In the quiet town of Maplewood, known for its picturesque streets, quaint shops, and closely knit community, the evening of October 9th, 2017, was marked by a sudden shroud of fear. Maplewood High School football team had just secured a victory. As the scoreboard lit up in the dusk, but the thrill of victory would soon be overshadowed by the chilling events that followed. When the final whistle blew, the players left the field, celebrated by their teammates, parents, and friends. Yet away from the jubilant crowd, a darker narrative was unfolding. 15-year-old Lucy Whitmore had not returned home after the game, her absence unnoticed until late in the evening. As the night wore on, concern crawled into the hearts of her parents, who immediately reported her missing. The Maplewood police swung into action, dispatching officers to canvass the neighborhoods, questioning friends, and searching the nearby parks. Lucy was an honor roll student, friendly yet reserved, a girl who spent more time in libraries than at parties. Her sudden disappearance sent tremors through the town, awakening an evergreen terror. What could have happened to her? As dawn broke, the tranquil town was cast in shadows. Maplewood, which thrived on a sense of safety, was now gripped by uncertainty and fear. With each hour that ticked by, the urgency in the air thickened, intertwining the fate of one very ordinary girl with the dark, unknown elements lurking in the shadows of their honest lurking in the shadows of their seemingly perfect world. Chapter 2. The victim. Lucy Whitmore was known for her gentle spirit and infectious laughter, qualities that endeared her to both peers and adults alike. She had a way of making others feel comfortable, her bright smile capable of warming even the coldest of days. Those who knew her described her as an attentive listener, often found at the library, immersed in the enchanting worlds of fiction, or buried in passages for her biology assignment. At school, Lucy was a standout student, adored by her teachers and classmates. She was part of the National Honor Society and had plans to study environmental science with dreams of making a difference. Ahead of her lay a promising future, characterized by extracurricular clubs, volunteer work, and supportive friendships. There was, however, a veil of solitude that hung around her. While charming in groups, she often preferred to retreat into her thoughts. At home, Lucy was beloved by her parents, who emphasized the importance of kindness and integrity. They instilled in her strong values, leading her to participate in community cleanups and environmental initiatives. Yet, there was something else lurking beneath the surface. Lucy was sensitive, prone to anxiety about her studies and her place in the world. Troubles with self-image crept in like shadows, common amongst teenagers, but ones that Lucy bore in silence, afraid to burden those she loved. Unbeknownst to her family, Lucy had recently been the target of negative comments on social media, tearing at her confidence. This unseen turmoil haunted her, coiling tightly around her heart as the days passed into weeks. Now, as the search for her consumed the town of Maplewood, the bright lights of her future seemed flickering. Anxiety morphed into a heavier dread. Lucy Whitmore was more than a victim. She was a fragile spirit lost in the throes of adolescence, desperately seeking something greater in a world now tainted by uncertainty. Chapter 3. The investigation unfolds. The investigation unfolds. The crime scene. As dawn crept over Maplewood, the sun's rays did little to penetrate the heady air of anxiety and despair radiating through the once peaceful town, while the commotion of the school football game faded into memory. It was now the stillness of uncertainty that filled the hearts of those who had gathered in Lucy's neighborhood. The search efforts intensified, transforming tranquil streets into a theater of urgency. At 7 a.m., a local police officer patrolling the nearby park noticed the peculiar stillness around the perimeter of Fisher's Hollow, secluded wooded area just 3 blocks from Maplewood Hut. A whimsical stream trickled lazily between tall pines, the kind of place where children build dreams and forts. But the sight of dark tire tracks leading into the hollow painted a different narrative, one already suspected, but not yet confirmed. Officers combed through the foliage, their hearts heavy with the gravity of their duty. It was not long before they discovered a small clearing littered with remnants of young lives, discarded soda cans, and a weathered backpack resting against a gnarled tree. The sight sent shivers down their spines. They began to rope off the area, calling in crime scene investigators as urgency melded with fear. When forensics arrived, they worked tirelessly, photographing every angle and documenting evidence with meticulous care. As they explored the vicinity, they unearthed something that would forever tarnish the innocence of Maplewood, a blood-stained piece of clothing caught in a thorny bush. The investigators exchanged worried glances, aware that what they had found shifted the narrative towards something much darker. Lucy's absence drew friends and family into a circle of despair as the community gathered, clutching each other tightly, understanding that their safety had been compromised. The shadows were no longer just an abstract fear. They were real, breathing, and close. The narrative of Lucy's life had taken a and the town of Maplewood was about to contend with the truth. Chapter 4. The family's despair. The early investigation. As the sun climbed higher, its light illuminated the stony faces of the Maplewood police. As they began to build a timeline of Lucy's movements leading up to her disappearance, the initial reports poured in, revealing fragments of Lucy's last known hours. Striking a balance between urgency and compassion, Officer Harris, who had been on the force for 20 years, was assigned as the lead investigator. He knew the gravity of the situation not only for the family, but for the town itself. Friend after friend was interviewed. They recounted the day in vivid detail. Lucy had seemed happy and excited, cheering for her team, laughing with companions. But as the conversations deepened, tension began to emerge. Some friends hinted at Lucy's recent struggles, quietly enough that they didn't raise alarm, but concerning enough that Officer Harris noted the undercurrents of anxiety among. He could see in their eyes that they feared talking about the harsh comments and social pressures that had weighed on her shadows, creeping into the light of their shared memories. By late afternoon, investigators had established that Lucy had made plans to attend a post-game gathering at a local diner with her friends. Yet she never arrived. Searching for more leads, they traced her final movements back further. A witness reported having seen Lucy leave the game alongside a tall boy known for riding a motorcycle, Simeon, whose past included troubling rumors but had never been substantiated. As the days passed without resolution, law enforcement cast a wider net. Flyers with Lucy's photograph were distributed, community searches coordinated, and social media campaigns initiated. Tension within the town bubbled. Neighbors shared whispered speculations while praying for any sign of Lucy. The fear of the unknown seeped into everyday life, fracturing the once innocent routines of families who had never considered the possibility that something so vile could occur within their midst. As Lucy's disappearance lingered in the hearts of the Maplewood residents, each day drew more questions than answers. How could someone so ordinary become enveloped in a mystery that rattled the very core of their community? As Officer Harris reflected on each piece of evidence and led, a new chill settled in. They were running out of time, and time had never seemed so merciless. Chapter 5. The Search expands. The dead ends. The search for Lucy Whitmore stretched from days into weeks, each passing moment weighing heavily on the shoulders of her family, friends, and the entire Maplewood community. Flyers still fluttered from telephone poles and shop windows, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the pervasive gloom that had settled over the town like a thick fog. The initial fervor of the search began to wane, replaced by an uneasy resignation that burrowed itself deeply into the hearts of hopeful searchers. Investigators combed through leads tirelessly, but each turn seemed to lead to a dead end. The tall boy with the motorcycle, once a candle flickering with potential clues, had vanished from the town, his parents claiming he had left for a job opportunity across the state. All that remained were hushed whispers and second-hand accounts of his troubling past, leaving investigators with few actionable paths to pursue. Days turned to weeks, and the search efforts transitioned from a vibrant collage of community vigor to a muted, cautious caution. Volunteers who had once eagerly combed through the forests and fields now drifted away, their faith dimming. The pressure for answers was becoming a suffocating weight. Officer Harris and his team began to face the reality that Lucy's case was cooling. As the colors of autumn filled the trees, the fear that their efforts would yield no answers grew palpably among the investigators. In the police precinct, every investigator held their breaths as they stared into the black and white reality of the case files scattered before them. Each page was filled with interviews, suspect profiles, and map sketches tracing potential sighting locations. Yet, the threads seemed disjointed, struggling to weave a coherent story. Common patterns started to emerge at those who shared their last moments with Lucy, often mentioned the weight of their own fears. Stirring concerns that her quiet struggles with self-worth had buried connections waiting to be unearthed. As momentum slowed, new leads were pursued only to dissipate into nothingness sightings that were later confirmed as misidentifications or leads that drifted into sight. The town's pulse slowed alongside the investigation. The once thriving community events morphed into hushed gatherings, where laughter was a distant memory, and with the sun setting earlier each day, Lucy's absence eclipsed the warmth of autumn, casting shadows that would linger well into the approaching winter. Chapter 6. The Turning Point. A break in the case. As November rolled into Maplewood, the days grew shorter and the chill of winter bore down, amplifying the weight of Lucy Whitmore's absence. Hopes had faded, and with them, the resolve of the townsfolk began to weep. But just when the scent of despair seemed to dominate the investigation, a phone call jolted Officer Harris awake from the torpor of the cold case status. It was a routine call from a local resident, Mrs. Eldridge, who reported a suspicious sighting from the previous week. Two young men arguing near a Fisher's Hollow, the same area where Lucy's bloodstained clothing had been found. The urgency in her voice cut through the heavy silence of the precinct. She described one of the men, indicating he may have had a motorcycle parked nearby. His demeanor described as agitated and frantic. Officer Harris took swift action, mobilizing a small team to revisit the wooded area with renewed purpose. They meticulously combed through the hollow's fringe, hoping to find any additional clues that may have been missed in their earlier search. Each rustle of leaves echoed like a heartbeat in the quiet woods, amplifying their anticipation. As they approached the spot marked by the earlier investigation, a break in the underbrush caught their eye. Nestled in a thicket were remnants, discarded wrappers, and damp, weathered clothing scraps, seemingly untouched since the day Lucy disappeared. What stood out most was the distinct logo of Maplewood High emblazoned on a piece of torn fabric. It was a chilling discovery that sent a cascade of icy dread through the team. The pieces were aligning, and they needed answers. With the newfound evidence, Officer Harris rushed back to the precinct, eager to track down witnesses connected to the sighting and gather fresh statements. Every moment intensified the urgency. They could feel the case shifting beneath their feet. Incentives were offered for information leading to Lucy's whereabouts, and social media posts sparked renewed interest. Maybe, just maybe, after all the dead ends, they were on the verge of uncovering something significant. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, lighting the sky in hues of orange and violet, whispers of hope ignited among the townsfolk. Once more, the web of mystery tightened as they awaited the impending developments each new led, a flicker in the darkness, drawing them closer to revealing the truth behind Lucy Whitmore's tragic disappearance. Chapter 7. The Suspects. The suspect. As the investigation gained renewed momentum, Officer Harris focused intently on the lead that had emerged from Mrs. Eldridge's tip. The tension mounted as they worked to locate the two young men seen arguing near Fisher's Hollow. The sketchy descriptions from witness one tall, with dark hair, the other shorter and stockier were circulated among the police forces in neighboring towns. Within days, one name began to surface repeatedly. Jason Thornton, known in Maplewood as a local troublemaker. Jason was in his early 20s and had a reputation that preceded him. He had been seen hanging around the high school, making waves among the students, and was known for his erratic behavior and penchant for petty thefts. Officers dug deeper, uncovering a record that revealed a series of minor offenses, enough to paint a picture of a young man who lived on the fringes of acceptable behavior. But what made him particularly interesting was his vehicle, a black motorcycle, the same one described in multiple sightings. Within 48 hours, the police managed to track Jason down to his mother's home. The house was tucked away in a less affluent part of town, its peeling paint and overgrown yard a testament to neglect. As Officer Harris and his partner approached, they noticed the door was ajar, an invitation that left them uneasy. Once inside, the smell of stale cigarettes permeated the air. The walls were covered with disheveled posters and half-hearted attempts at decor artifacts of a life carelessly lived. What struck Harris most was the disarray. Empty fast food containers littered the living room, as though no one had a care for cleanliness or order. After announcing their presence, the officers made their way down a dimly lit hallway, finally finding Jason lounging uncomfortably on a worn couch, eyes darting nervously. When questioned, he was quick to deny involvement in Lucy's disappearance, his voice rising defensively as he claimed ignorance. Yet the young man's agitation spoke volume. A sweat beaded on his forehead, and shifting gaze betrayed him. Officer Harris noted the tattoos inked on Jason's arms as potential identifiers, scrutinizing every detail while probing deeper into his emotion. As the officers left the Thornton home, they carried with them a mix of unease and determination. They had a name, an imprint of a life marked by poor decisions and a propensity for trouble. Yet, the question lingered. Was Jason Thornton merely a misguided youth wandering down a reckless path? Or could he be the key to unlocking the mystery surrounding Lucy Whitmore? The suspicion had turned the investigation on its head, and the town braced itself for a tumultuous journey ahead, because with every answer lay the potential for even darker questions. Chapter 8: A Hidden Connection. The trial. Months passed since Lucy Whitmore's disappearance rattled the heart of Maplewood. The search evolving from an urgent rescue mission to a complicated case of criminality woven with heartbreaking twists. The town braced for the stirring of justice as the trial against Jason Thornton approached, gathering momentum like a storm cloud on the horizon. On the morning of the trial, the courthouse buzzed with a mixture of tension and resolve. The air was heavy with expectancy as the community converged to witness the proceedings, their collective grief morphing into determination. Families filled the rows of wooden benches, whispers echoing against the cool stone walls as they recalled Lucy's laughter and her radiant smile. Each individual present knew the trial was more than just a legal obligation. It was a measure of their grief, their yearning for answers, and the community's commitment to the promise of justice. As the courtroom door swung open, Jason Thornton entered, flanked by law enforcement. His strut carried an unnerving air of bravado, yet the shadows that played across his features betrayed other emotions concealed beneath. The evidence gathered by Officer Harris and his team was extensive, a combination of forensic findings, witness statements, and social media records that built a compelling case. But the truth was still veiled, and the prosecution had to tread carefully. The state presented harrowing testimonies about Lucy's last known whereabouts and the chilling evidence found in Fisher's Hollow, all carefully interwoven to depict a narrative of manipulation and fear. The defense, however, painted Jason as an unintentional scapegoat, arguing that the circumstantial evidence was insufficient to draw clear connections between him and the crime. Intense moments of cross-examination raised doubts, and the courtroom grew thick with uncertainty. Throughout the trial, Lucy's parents sat together, their hands clasped tightly, faces etched with both heartbreak and resolve. They listened intently as fragments of their daughter's life were dissected before a bittersweet montage of her vibrant spirit, juxtaposed against the stark reality of her absence. Each testimony was a reminder of what was lost, reawakening their grief in profound ways. As closing arguments were made, the courtroom fell into a silence so thick it felt tangible. The palpable tension culminated in a sense of unity that rippled through the attendee, their thoughts aligned in a potent promise to find justice for a girl whose light had been extinguished far too soon. As the judge instructed the jury to deliberate, an icy breath settled over the crowd. Would the truth find its way to the surface? The shadows lingered, whispering of unanswered questions and unknown deaths. Maplewood awaited their decision, a moment that could either heal their wounds or cut deeper, echoing into the silence that had lingered for far too long. Chapter 9: The Verdict. The aftermath. The verdict arrived after long, fractious hours of deliberation. The verdict that would shake the fabric of Maplewood in ways no one could foresee. As the jurors filed back into the courtroom, the collective breath of the audience hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the light that had spilled through the windows moments earlier. The judge called the room to order, and all eyes fixed on the foreman, who bore a somber expression. On the charge of second-degree murder, the foreman announced, his voice resolute. "We find the defendant, Jason Thornton, guilty." The words resonated through the courtroom like a thunderclap, eliciting gasps from Lucy's family and friends. A rush of relief flooded over them, mingled with deep sorrow. Justice, at least in part, had been served, yet the weight of loss was ever present, a reminder of its complexity. As the gavel fell, wild emotions danced through the room. Some shed tears of disbelief, while others clenched their fists as quiet resolve took hold. For Jason, the reality of the verdict sunk in like a heavy anchor, dragging him into uncharted waters. His bravado crumbled, replaced by raw vulnerability. As he was led from the courtroom and heard, whispers among the audience rose. A cacophony of opinions and emotions blended into a chorus of uncertainty about the future. Had justice truly been served, or was this merely a bandage over a wound that would never fully heal? Outside the courthouse, cameras clicked and questions flew like arrows, capturing the divided sentiments of the community. The townsfolk were torn between relief and uneasiness. While closure had been achieved, the scars from this tragedy ran deep. Rumors swirled about Lucy's life, her struggles, and the darkness that enveloped not just her, but the lives of those around her. In the weeks following the trial, Maplewood embarked on a journey of healing. Memorials sprung up around town, beautifully adorned with flowers and handwritten notes, each one a testament to Lucy's life, her laughter, her dreams. The community, bruised yet resilient, began to rally. Organizing events aimed at raising awareness around mental health and keeping an open dialogue for teenagers wrestling with similar struggles. New friendships bloomed in the wake of grief. Individuals who had once walked separate paths found solace in talking about their own experiences, fostering a newfound sense of connection. Lucy had inadvertently become a catalyst for change, a driving force that bound the community through shared determination to support one another. Yet as days turned into months, memories of Lucy remained both vibrant and haunting. Her accents echoed through the halls of Maplewood High, where whispers of what if followed like shadows. Each corner of town resonated with tales from the past, an undeniable reminder of a young girl whose laughter had filled the air with light. And as winter enveloped Maplewood once more, the true aftermath of the trial was only beginning to unfold, a tapestry woven through tears, resilience, and a commitment to uphold Lucy's memory. In a world forever changed by her loss, as the snowflakes began to fall, blanketing the earth in a hushed serenity, the people of Maplewood stepped forward, knowing that healing would be a long, winding journey. Yet each step was worthy of the light that Lucy Whitmore had shared with them. Chapter 10. The Legacy. Reflection. As seasons changed in Maplewood, the emotional landscape of the town continued to evolve. The whispers of Lucy Whitmore's name transformed from painful echoes into a call to action, stirring deep reflection among the residents. Candlelight vigils grew into annual memorials, where friends, family, and community members gathered not only to honor Lucy's memory, but to share stories of struggle, hope, and resilience. Lucy had become synonymous with empathy in the town. Her absence, once a heavy burden, was now a catalyst fostering awareness around mental health and the importance of speaking out. Local schools initiated programs to educate students on kindness and support systems, encouraging open conversations about the pressures teens faced. No longer a hidden struggle, issues like bullying and anxiety found a voice, and Lucy became an emblem of strength for those grappling with their own battle. In quiet moments of reflection, the townspeople remembered Lucy's vivacious spirit, her laughter that filled the air like music. It was a stark reminder to embrace life fully. Each day brought new opportunities to extend kindness, to reach out to those silently suffering, and to build connections that could possibly change lives.